To our next presenter, Ms. Libby Keenan Lindner. Yes. Welcome. Please be seated. Your 5 minutes begin now.
My name is Libby Keenan. I am a horse farmer from Amherstburg, Ontario. I have traveled here a long way at considerable expense, and I thank you for the opportunity. This issue is that important to me. My concern with the Liberal government is the lack of transparency when they conduct business and put forth bills like this one we are speaking to today. When we do not know how much clean energy contracts are costing us, when costs are hidden in the global adjustment and delivery charges on our hydro bills, and no clear answers as to what we are paying for, it causes myself and millions of Ontarians concern. I am not a politician or a lawyer. I am a salt-of-the-earth farmer and proud to be one. But I run a business, and I know I have to account for every penny. When I sign a contract, I know what I'm paying for. Transparency is key in running any business. If I were to run my business the way the government runs this province, I would be bankrupt. The leaked documents provided us with important facts. The fact that this Liberal government has not had the opportunity to review the long-term ramifications of Bill 132. Premier Wynne and Energy Minister Glenn Thibeault both stood up and admitted they had made mistakes they had realized that had caused hardship to Ontario families and businesses. Part of the problem is that they rushed the legislation through and made decisions not taking the time to evaluate long-term consequences. As I see it, they are repeating the same mistakes that brought us to this point in passing this bill quickly. I resent the fact that the Liberals are not sharing information with the NDP or the PCs. I resent the fact that they are expecting everyone to follow blindly and believe this bill is the answer to the problems with the cost of hydro. I resent the fact this government has sold shares in Hydro One. As I understand, Hydro One Crown Corporation was strategically designed so the profits of the corporation would be reinvested back into the province, into our schools, hospitals, and roads. It was a good system that worked and served our province well. Now you have sold 49% of that Crown Corporation, and we will never have the profits of that to work with again. As I said, I am a farmer. I know better than to sell my seed corn to get a few extra bucks in my pocket. If I were foolish enough to do that, I know I would suffer down the road, and it would cost me much more to purchase feed for my livestock. So with the sale of Hydro One, you have bought a little time. You will invest in roads, schools, and hospitals, and for the next few years, everything will look peachy keen. However, I am frightened. I am 64 years old. 4 years from now, when I am nearing 70, I will be more vulnerable just when the cost of hydro will be shooting up again, quite possibly higher than ever before. You have basically sold your seed corn. As a farmer, I know this is a dumb move. So when you try to sell us this bill to Ontarians, they're not buying it. The Liberal Party has a history of rushing in and using their majority to pass any legislation they want. My fear, this energy is one big mess and full of debt. People do not hide the facts when there is nothing to hide. Ontarians want facts, not promises of short-term relief. 4 years goes by in the blink of an eye. When communities have to raise money to help people pay their hydro bills, something is wrong. When businesses close and move to the United States, taking good jobs with them, something is wrong. When families have to choose between heating and eating, or seniors cannot afford their medication, we have a major problem. As I said, I am not a politician, but this is what I would like you to do. I want you to take that plan and share it with the PCs and the NDP. I want the very best minds in our government to come together and agree on a plan that will save our province, because trust me, we need saving. The very future of Ontario depends on that. Thank you for listening to me today.
Thank you, Ms. Keenan. Begin with the PC side, Mr. Walker.
Thank you very much, Ms. Linder. I think you've shared in many ways what a lot of Ontarians are thinking, and I think you received a lot of publicity when you met with the Premier. Do you really, at this point, do you think there was any sincerity there whatsoever, or was it just really a publicity stunt, and now we're just going to go right back to the way we were?
I believe that it coincided very handily with the upcoming election and with the very high degree of frustration people were feeling with their hydro bills. Because my letter got 21,000 shares in 3 days, obviously I hit a nerve, and I think that the Liberals are very tuned in to somebody flashing a red light that's going to set off a widespread. So Premier Wynne was very nice to me, talked about solutions, talked about something being done, and in fact, something has been done, but it's not real. We are mortgaging against the future.
And I think if I use your seed, your corn seed, seed corn, sorry, that again, this is really a shell game. So we're trying to suggest to you that everything's wonderful in the world. We're going to use your money to actually tell you that. But in 4 or 5 years, those rates are going to start going up. We've moved the debt out. And at the end of the day, I trust you resent that and feel that you haven't really, you use that they did come with some solutions. But at the end of the day, they didn't do anything significant to stop and address the increasing and escalating costs for the long term.
No, and the problem is that when you have Scotia iTrade advertising today at $22.60 a share, while we're here discussing whether to privatize, there are people already making money off what we're discussing here. So is it too late? I don't know. I certainly hope not.
So you would, I think if you could ask the members opposite, you would ask them to scrap Bill 132 and come back to the table, as you said, and
Yes.
work with the other parties to find a plan
Yes,
that truly is about
bipartisan,
Ontarians.
cross the aisle and come up with a real solution for hydro, because what's happened now, the wind contracts, as I understand it, are getting paid 84 cents a kilowatt hour, as opposed to 18 cents for the going rate, or 3 cents a kilowatt hour in Quebec. I could go on and on.
And
but
were you
obviously
offended
I'm
that
not
the
giving-
day that they come out with the rate relief, that the next day they actually signed more green energy contracts without telling the public or even including that in any of their thoughts?
Well, I'm offended now. I didn't know it, but we don't know much
Yeah,
of
so they
anything.
signed more green energy contracts the day after they came out and gave you this big relief plan that again is going to add $25 to $43 billion to the taxes of our children and grandchildren. Thank you for
Of
your
course
efforts.
I'm offended.
Thank you, Mr. Walker. To the NDP, Mr. Tevins.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Ms. Keenan, for being here today. And it is a long trip from Amherstburg
Yes, it
to
is.
Toronto. Are the people in your community of the same mind as you on this Liberal scheme to borrow $40 billion to reduce bills for a few years and then looking at big bills later?
Very much so. In fact, I had a very interesting discussion with our mayor, Al DiCarlo, who said that he, along with a group of community mayors all across the province, have joined together and written Premier Wynne on basically a weekly basis for months to ask for some relief for their constituents in some long-term permanent way, and his letters and their letters have not even been responded to.
So people don't like the idea that the prices are going to zoom up later.
No, because anyone who is an adult and pays a mortgage or a child's tuition or for long-term repairs or infrastructure on your own business, 4 years is nothing. 4 years is, well, it's an election, but other than that, it's nothing. It's a blink of an eye if you do any kind of planning at all.
And the analogy you used of selling off your seed corn with the sale of Hydro One.
Yes.
Again, is that seen in similar ways by people in your community, those who are farmers, who know that they can't sell off what they're going to need tomorrow?
Absolutely. We have a huge greenhouse industry in Leamington, just a few miles down the road. And one of our biggest tomato producers is moving his business to Ohio so he can buy Ontario hydro cheaper than he can buy it here. There's something crooked going on. I'm sorry, but that's the truth.
And would you say that the plan that's been brought forward by the Liberals is increasing cynicism in your community about this government's approach to dealing with hydro issues?
I'm not sure it could be increased.
Okay.
The rating where I come from is so low, it is unbelievable.
Right. Okay. I don't have further questions, but I want to thank you very much for taking the time and effort to be here.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tevins. The government side, Ms. Verneil.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Libby, and thank you very much for making the long journey from your community here to Queen's Park today and to share your stories with us. It was curious to hear you talk about the Premier reaching out to you personally. You said at the time, and this is a quote from you, that it was a very good and cordial conversation. Kathleen Wynne took responsibility for some of the problems listed in the letter, such as high hydro rates, and you applauded her. You applauded the Premier for following through on her promises to cut electricity costs. So my question to you, Libby, is it important to you to save 25% on your electricity bill?
Today, if it's going to be 50% higher in 4 years, not as important. Because I cannot, running a business, I have to plan, and I cannot look at things, you know, that's like saying you go and get yesterday's bread for half off, and then it's green by Wednesday, so you don't use it. I mean, it's a bit of a, you know, that seems like a loaded question. No matter what I say, I'm backing the government. I am not backing the government. I believe personally that Premier Wynne, it's out of her control. This whole thing, hydro, has become so far out of control that I don't think she can do anything about it. Even if she had the backing of the people, I think it's run amok. And I think the fact that Scotia iTrade is offering shares, it's on the TSX, it's gone. What has to be done is some control maintained and some establishment where the government still can advocate on our behalf. I don't believe that Premier Wynne, I believe the trouble she's in these days, if she could wave a wand and fix it, she certainly would. I don't think it's going in her back pocket. I think she would give anything. I would not take that woman's job for $5 billion.
The fact that measures have been taken, though, does this show you that we're headed in the right direction? Because the other choice was to do nothing.
The other choice was to do nothing, headed in the right direction for 4 years. Unfortunately, the projections I have seen show that it is going to end up higher than it would have been without this short-term relief. So for instance, for me, yes, it's nice to have a few bucks off, but since it went from $140 to almost $600 over the last 3 years, $30, $40 off is really a drop in the bucket. It's not the answer. No one expects free hydro. That's not the point. The point is, when it's in shareholders and profiteers' hands, there will be no end of that, and we will have no ability to control it, and neither will Premier Wynne.
You are aware, as a rural customer and farmer, you could get up to 50% off, and that would be a significant relief.
Yes, I am aware of that. Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Potts, and thanks to you, Ms. Keenan.